Welcome to ABC News Live. I'm Diane Macedo. Our top stories this morning. We're going to check on the latest on Hurricane Michael, what's going on with the damage there, as well as the recovery efforts. We're also taking a look at President Trump speaking out on that crisis of the missing journalist. We'll have the latest on that. And finally, we have royal baby news. Prince Harry and Meghan are expecting. James Longman has the latest from London. But first, here are your headlines.
Sears has filed for bankruptcy. The company facing a huge debt problem today. Filed for Chapter 11 early this morning. It says it will close over 140 stores this year.
North and South Korea are announcing new deals today, including an agreement to connect the roads and railways of the two countries. High winds in California, the Santa Ana winds, are now forcing power companies to shut off electricity to thousands. Utility officials are worried down power lines could set off wildfires.
Several reports say Facebook is getting closer to implementing a feature in Messenger that would let users delete messages already sent.
We begin with the latest on that missing Washington Post columnist. Jamal Khashoggi was last seen in Turkey and was reportedly murdered by a Saudi hit squad. Now, President Trump is promising severe punishment if that accusation turns out to be true. Ian Pannell has the latest on that from Istanbul. Ian?
I want to show you the scene outside the Saudi consulate. This is a consulate where Jamal Khashoggi, the Washington Post reporter, went missing 13 days ago. As you can see, there are cameras and cameras and cameras, not just Turkish media, but international media as well. Let's just rotate slowly around this way. So they're camped out in the woods, a whole bunch of other news outlets. And this is the consulate itself. This is what we know of the story so far. Jamal Khashoggi, a Washington Post columnist, went in there to basically get a certificate annulling his marriage to a Saudi woman so he could marry his Turkish fiancée. It was a fairly routine meeting. It was supposed to take place at 1:30 in the afternoon. He walked in the front of the embassy. We have video evidence that he went in the front. And after that, he just hasn't been seen. His fiancée waited and waited. She contacted Turkish former MP. He contacted security forces. They've done their investigation. They're absolutely convinced that he was held, that he was interrogated, and that he was killed. They say they have taped evidence of it, but they've yet to produce exactly what that evidence is. But this isn't just an isolated incident. It sparked an entire diplomatic incident stretching eastwards to Saudi Arabia and westwards to Washington. President Trump stepping in, saying he wants answers as well, and threatening a possible response if it turns out that the Saudis are responsible. The Saudis then seem to also ramp up the pressure, returning to the United States and others, saying, look, if you take action against us, we will take even stronger action against you. A clear implication that they could use the power of oil and gas prices to put pressure on other people. So that's where we got to yesterday evening, until there was a telephone conversation between King Salman of Saudi Arabia and the Turkish president. They seem to come to an agreement to carry out this joint investigation, which the Turkish authorities have been demanding ever since now. So what we're hearing is that at some point today, a team of Turkish investigators will finally be allowed into the consulate. We don't know whether it's going to be a full forensic investigation, but that's certainly what Ankara has been demanding, and the only thing that they're likely to accept. The question for now is, by the end of the day, will we have any greater idea what really happened to Jamal Khashoggi?
Many are certainly hoping so. Ian Pannell there from Istanbul, Turkey. And just a little while ago, earlier this morning, President Trump addressed this very crisis of the missing journalist on the White House lawn. Janae Norman is at the White House with the latest on that. Janae?
Well, Diane, we have seen and heard a lot from the president lately, who's been on sort of a media blitz, and this morning telling reporters that he spoke with the Saudi king, and he reiterated to reporters multiple times that the king says firmly denied having any knowledge of what happened to journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Take a listen to what the president just told reporters here on the South Lawn.
I just spoke with the king of Saudi Arabia, who denies any knowledge of what took place with regard to, as he said, his Saudi Arabian citizen. I've asked, and he firmly denied that, I've asked Secretary of State Mike Pompeo to immediately get on a plane, go to Saudi Arabia, go to other places if necessary, which he probably will. But with regard to this, go to Turkey if necessary. The king told me that Turkey and Saudi Arabia are working hand in hand very closely on getting to the bottom of what happened. So we'll see what happens. But Mike Pompeo is leaving literally within an hour or so. He's heading to Saudi Arabia. We are going to leave nothing uncovered. With that being said, the king firmly denied any knowledge of it. He didn't really know. Maybe, I don't want to get into his mind, but it sounded to me like maybe these could have been rogue killers. Who knows? We're going to try getting to the bottom of it very soon, but his was a flat denial.
And since the president spoke there about 2 hours ago, the Secretary of State has confirmed that Mike Pompeo is headed to Saudi Arabia, saying that the president ordered a prompt and thorough investigation into what happened. Diane.
And Janae, you talked a little bit about the president's media blitz. He gave a very lengthy interview to 60 Minutes last night. He talked about the journalists, among a lot of other topics. What's the general reaction been to that interview?
Right. Oh, I mean, that interview is still making headlines. There are a number of things that the president talked about. For instance, he signaled that Defense Secretary James Mattis might leave the administration soon, saying that he thinks Mattis is sort of a Democrat. When asked about his relationship with Russian President Vladimir Putin, the president defended that, saying that he has been very tough on Putin. And he admitted that he thinks Putin probably is involved in poisonings and assassinations, but not in our country. And then he took questions about when he's accused of mocking Christine Blasey Ford, the woman who accused now Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh of sexual assault. Take a listen to how he defended that.
Had I not made that speech, we would not have won. I was just saying she didn't seem to know anything. No, and you're trying to destroy a life of a man who has been extraordinary.
Why did you have to make fun of her?
I didn't really make fun.
Well, they were laughing.
What I said is the person that we're talking about didn't know the year, the time, the place. Well, I think she was treated with great respect. I'll be honest.
But do you think
there
you
are those that think she
with,
shouldn't have been?
Do you think you treated her with great respect?
I think so, yeah, I did.
But you seem to be saying that she lied.
Well, you know what? I'm not going to get into it because we won. It doesn't matter. Well, we won.
And there you have it. In the end, the president says they won because Supreme Court Justice Brett Kavanaugh was confirmed to the Supreme Court, his second nominee, Diane.
And I understand the president is traveling to Florida today, Janae, to see the damage in the storm zone. What's on the agenda?
That's right. That's when we saw him there on the South Lawn as he and First Lady Melania Trump were headed from Washington. They are heading to the Florida Panhandle as well as Georgia today to tour some of those areas damaged by last week's Hurricane Michael. He says that they will tour that damage, visit with FEMA, first responders, and law enforcement. Maximum effort is taking place. Everyone working hard. He says worst hit in 50 years. And we know that they will be back in Washington tonight after spending quite a few hours on the ground there. So they're covering a lot of miles today.
All right, Janae Norman from the White House. Janae, thank you. And as the president heads to Florida, Will Carr is there in the storm zone in Panama City, sort of taking a look at the damage there as well as checking in on the progress. Will, we're now several days into this recovery. How do things look at this point?
Well, Diane, there is devastation everywhere. We were in Mexico Beach yesterday, and as you've seen, it looks like a bomb went off. It is one thing to see that on television, something quite different to see it in person. There are still 46 people who are missing in the Mexico Beach area, and there's still an urgent search and rescue going on. Here in Panama City, a lot of people are just struggling to get by day. They're living in homes just like this without power. You can see those boards that are splintered. This home took a punch from the hurricane. There's actually a hole in the ceiling. Jackie Lane actually lives in this home. Jackie, you were telling me that you rode the storm out in that inn. You can see the steps leading up to the second floor. Kind of tell me as we walk along here what you and your family did when the hurricane hit and how you were able to survive this, because when you guys see the other side of this inn, it's really remarkable.
Yes, we thought that it would be safer up there because we were thinking about the storm surge, the water. So we thought we'd be flooded down here, so we went up there, and within the first 15 minutes, the roof started coming off. And so my son and my husband and I got into the bathroom. It's just a small bathroom back on the back right here.
So let's walk everybody up here because I want you guys to see this. So you see these steps that lead up to the second story of this inn. Jackie and her family were up there, and when you take a wide look now of what's left, I mean, the entire second story of this inn is gone.
Yes, sir, it's gone. We lost the roof, and then we went into the bathroom. The roof was still on the bathroom, and we went into the bathroom, and me and my son got in the bathtub because we heard like a freight train, sound like a tornado, and my husband sat on the floor, he's disabled, and put his feet up against the door of the bathroom to hold it. It was already splitting, and I'm sorry.
Take your time, take your time.
And it was already splitting, and the roof the ceiling came off the bathroom, and for about 3 hours, it just sucked us in and sucked us out, sucked us in and sucked us out. I thought I was gonna lose my husband because the door was cracking, and the stove and refrigerator that was in there, we could hear them just banging together and clanking around, and then we seen the stove fly across us. I mean, we seen all the debris, trees, pieces of everything. We've lost everything. I mean, everything. And we lucky to have our lives. Lucky to have our lives.
We are so happy that you guys are okay, especially when you see where you rode this storm out. It is unbelievable. And you, like so many other people in this area, don't have any cell phone service right now.
No, sir.
How difficult, how much does that add to your difficulties?
It's such stress not knowing that other people that you know that you can't get to, whether they're okay or alive. If anybody's out there of my family, this is Jackie. I hope y'all are all okay. Me and my family are okay.
Where do they live?
We made it through it. Callaway, Florida, and Lynn Haven, Florida. I have friends there, and we can't get in touch with nobody, but we're all okay. The grandbabies are all right.
Other areas that were hit, and so many people in this region can't talk to their loved ones, and that is something that we're finding from people day after day. Jackie, thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you very much
with us. We really appreciate it, and we are so happy that you're okay.
Thank you. God bless.
Diane, we've heard story after story just like this. As you're walking along, it's very common to see signs, please help us. We see that building after building. This green sticker right here, that means that the search and rescue crews have come through here and they've cleared it, making sure that there are no bodies. Because again, when you look up at the second story, it's just gone. There are so many things that people here on the ground need. Like I said, people don't have power. Many don't have cell phone service. They don't have running water. It can be very difficult just to get meals. There's a curfew in effect for this entire area. It goes into effect at 7 o'clock at night. A lot of people are out there helping their neighbors. They're not thinking about where they're going to get their next meal. When the sun goes down, they realize they're starving, but there are no restaurants. There's nothing that is open. So people are living off granola bars, bananas, anything that their neighbors can provide. It is really still a desperate situation, Diane.
Yeah, it certainly seems that way. What a powerful story, and what an incredible thing that woman and her family endured. Our strength to everybody down there, Will, and thank you for bringing us their stories. And now we want to go over to Ginger Z to get the latest on the forecast. And Ginger has a little insight on why Hurricane Michael was so destructive. Ginger?
Diane, thank you. I think in the wake of Hurricane Michael, it's very important to start talking about what made this storm unique. And in my now nearly 20 years of storm chasing, this one certainly stands out. The debris and the damage in Mexico Beach, where I rode out the storm with my crew, reminded me a lot of Hurricane Katrina in Gulfport, Mississippi, but I wanted to just show you what was happening. So this one is unique in the way that it was almost a buzzsaw, and that's unfortunately the word that I used the night before and what came true. It had a lot of speed to it. So it came at the shore very quickly, which in part is good. It didn't have as much water to pile up with it, but boy, it came on with both 155-mile-per-hour winds. We were right there in that eye wall for more than an hour, and that's why Mexico Beach took on so much storm surge. Panama City with those intense winds for a very long time, and then the back edge of it too. One of our storm chasers was actually driving during the eye wall beginning. You can see the building on the left. That's where we rode out the storm. Wild that he's even driving. He said that was a terrible idea, as it is. Then I want to show you from our vantage point. We were about 30 feet up, and that's when I saw that house torn from its foundation across from us, bobbing in the road. You see the roof just on the right there? It's just the roof line. It's such a surreal image to see, very film-like as it moved past us. The power of that, what I believe is 15-foot storm surge, started to recede, and you were starting to see the damage, that house in the road, vehicles piled up on top of. We had a boat in our parking ramp. I mean, just unbelievable damage, and the wind was still blowing there. As soon as it was okay to go outdoors, we were able to take a picture of our building, which did not sustain barely any damage. I mean, yes, the storm surge made it into that first level, but above that, from 2, 3, and 4, really in good shape. It was completely made of cement and concrete. The windows and doors did not shatter. They were hurricane-proof, and they withstood it. Wouldn't want to ride out a Category 4 storm in any other structure, and probably just not even good to be there in that place. But the people that lived inside of there certainly survived. Unfortunately, others didn't, and I think we'll still find a whole lot more when they start doing more of the diving, search, and rescue today. Diane?
For sure. Still a lot of work to be done there. Ginger, thank you. And we want to shift gears now and go over to that murder mystery in Georgia. A young, aspiring model had a car crash, but when she was taken to the hospital, the doctors discovered she had actually been shot in the neck. The police are now analyzing a surveillance video, hoping to find some clues, and ABC's Steve Osinsami has the latest on that. From Atlanta, Steve, any leads on what happened here?
So, Diane, I just got off the phone with Clayton County Police just a couple seconds ago, who tell me they have no leads. And right now, they're not even sure where the bullet came from. They do believe that this was not a targeted shooting. And they're telling me this morning that they actually think this may have been accidental, that this was an accidental shooting. Just as you described, this young woman, a 28-year-old, Kelsey Quayle, was driving south of the city when she crashed into oncoming traffic, and that was caught on surveillance video at a gas station. You see her actually veer into the oncoming traffic. When she was transported, authorities thought initially, of course, that she was a victim of a car crash, and it wasn't until later that they discovered that gunshot wound to her neck. She just moved here a few months ago from California to start a modeling career. Her family is back in California. She was on life support for a little bit and was taken off of life support last week, Wednesday. Police continue to look for any information that leads them to where this bullet came from. They have upped the reward from $2,000 to $5,000, the Crime Stoppers reward. But again, they're very clear about this not being something that was targeted. They think it may have been a stray bullet, and they're looking to get to the bottom of this.
Geez, just so sad and so bizarre how this all happened. How is her family reacting to all of this?
They're devastated, obviously, as you would expect. The family is asking for anyone to take a good look at those pictures. They're praying that someone who was driving that night might be able to call in and give police some clue, some shred of evidence that might solve this murder mystery. Diane?
Yeah, I imagine the lack of information is making a painful situation even worse. I'm sure investigators are on the case. Steve Osinsami from Atlanta. Steve, thank you. And now we want to shift gears to a much brighter note because we have royal baby news. Prince Harry and Meghan have just announced they are expecting their first child. ABC's James Longman is traveling with the royals in Australia, and he has all the details for us. James?
I'm James Longman for ABC News in Australia. Now, as you can see, I am right next to Sydney Harbour Bridge, very iconic. And I'm down here because of Meghan and Harry, Duke and Duchess of Sussex. This is their royal tour. They're touring the Commonwealth. But today's news really has been hijacked by the fact that we found out that Meghan is pregnant. You keep walking with me a little bit. I'm going to show you where we are here. It's absolutely stunning. But Meghan, there was a lot of speculation about whether or not she was pregnant. There was a wedding this weekend of Harry's cousin, Eugenie, and she was wearing a blue coat all the way buttoned up, and people thought, well, maybe she's hiding something, and lo and behold, she was. I think the secrecy and the speculation was mounting so much that they didn't feel that they could keep the secret any longer. They were able to tell their family and friends at that wedding. They were able to tell the Queen, Kate, William, Charles, and of course members of Meghan's family, Meghan's mother, Doria, as well, before they flew down here. Now, they announced this even before this tour even got underway. They've got 16 days ahead of them, and it all begins here in Sydney. They're staying not very far from here in Admiralty House, the Governor's Mansion, and they're touring the Commonwealth. Now, the Commonwealth is a group of 53 countries, all of whom have the Queen as head of state, and they're former British colonies. And it is a tradition for royal couples to come down to this part of the world. And so the tour will be Australia, Fiji, Tonga, and New Zealand. Here tomorrow, that's why I'm walking you down here, is where they will begin their official engagements, and they will come down to the iconic Sydney Harbour. You can see the bridge there, and just over there, that is the Sydney Opera House. Absolutely stunning. Now, the Commonwealth is tremendously important, and particularly for Meghan and Harry, because Harry himself was appointed a youth ambassador for the Commonwealth, so this is part of really his major role as a member of the royal family, representing the Queen. But other things as well bring them to this part of the world. The Invictus Games being the chief one. The Invictus Games, kind of an Olympiad for 18 nations for injured personnel to compete, and they will be here at some of those events and at the opening and closing ceremonies. And also they'll be going to certain events to represent other interests that the couple have, particularly around mental health and female empowerment. These are themes that Meghan particularly, we know, is interested in. So there will be these sort of three themes that continue throughout the whole process. The Commonwealth, Invictus Games, and these sorts of mental health initiatives, especially also for young people, throughout the four nations that they are visiting on this 16-day tour. It's going to be very, very interesting, full of excitement, I think, in this part of the world. And I think also a lot of people will say, well, look, it's the first time a member of the royal family, the British royal family, has looked anything like the vast number of people who live around the Commonwealth. That is to say, a mixed-race woman. We haven't had one before in the royal family. And so I think that is why there's a big amount of excitement. She's going to be meeting with Aboriginal communities here in Australia, Maori communities in New Zealand, the Pacific Islanders. I think that's part of the reason why there's going to be so much interest in this royal couple. And of course, added to that now, a baby.
A baby always makes things even more exciting. James Longman from Sydney, Australia. Our big congratulations to Harry and Meghan. And that does it for us here at ABC News Live. Remember, you can check your headlines all day long at abcnews.com or at your ABC News app. For ABC News Live, I'm Diane Macedo. Have a great day, everyone. Thanks for watching.